So I have no idea what we're going to talk about. Well, I know. There's a starting point, which is first, I want to thank you for accepting the invitation to be in this podcast. It was something that came very naturally when you repost one of my posts where where I was talking about potential.
Yeah, it's an honor to be here. Yeah, for the listeners, I guess that's a good place to start, kind of like how we came to start the conversation. I mean, you and I have a lot in common in regards to self-growth and personal development, art,
Yeah,
alchemy, transformation. There's a lot of places we can go, but I think in terms of the context of this conversation to start with, we kind of want to launch it off based upon the post that you made, which I thought was excellent. I reposted and commented on. So maybe you want to talk a little bit about that post to start.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I think it's a nice starting point about potential. But to be honest, I have no. Well, I do have an idea what I wrote in that post because that was the truth, and that I wrote that post based on a friend's question regarding my being single situation, which is not even a situation, and my reply, my answer was that in the past I would fall in love by a man's potential, which it's visible and I can feel it in every man. But by just being with amongst them. And I all the relationships that I had still today, they were all based from they all started from that starting point, like, oh my God, I love this man, he has so much potential. And then I would stay there and wait and wait and wait. And obviously there is my part as well in the dynamic, but I always waited for that potential to burst, to come out, which from the relationships that I've been through, it's not that that potential wasn't coming out, but was just coming out in specific situations. For example, in sexual intercourse, where I find it is more easier for men to show that potential, even sometimes a conditioned potential, but that's where I would see that potential coming out. But then in the day-to-day life, I was just like, so you are like this in a specific arena, and then when you come out, for example, the relationships they had with their families, with their mother specifically, I was just like, would feel shocked by the dynamics they had with their mothers, for example. Like they would become like boys in their presence. And that was a turn off for me.
I think that's a huge component, the attachment, early conditioning, imprinting from the mother in regards to maybe smothering or, keeping the man small as a boy, to not let go almost and allow him to develop and blossom into his manhood, and to start, I think I would like to paint the context of you and I met in, I mean, I would call it a mystery school, but the basic premise was that shadow, kind of runs subconsciously our lives. And we're not, that's the trick, is that unfortunately, while our conscious mind may have the best intentions to, live in a certain way, or, have thoughts, feelings, behaviors, and, align in a certain way, shadow has a subconscious, script of itself, codes that run underneath that we're not even aware of. So, in a way, it's like the iceberg, right? Like we see only that surface level, and then there's this completely other world underneath the iceberg that's really just running the show. So at the time you and I met, within that group, that really changed me. I mean, and I know your coaching goes back a long ways, and I studied transpersonal counseling, psychology, and art therapy 10 years ago or so, a decade or more, and was doing self-growth for decades. And then until I turned, about 40 a couple of years ago, and had sort of like my midlife kind of transits, and that's another language we talk, astrology, of the outer planets really doing their thing to you at that point.
We can talk astrology. I love astrology as well.
Yeah. There's a lot of places we can go. That really started to click with me, how archetypes are this bundle of codes of thoughts, feelings, behaviors that are really running like almost like on the computer scripts, and we can't see them. So in this instance, going back to this example of the mother, she may have the best intentions of like letting go and allowing the boy to go and blossom into his manhood and create his kingdom, create his place in the world. However, there are all these shadowy, subconscious scripts that are running that she's not aware of, that or she wants to smother or hold on to the boy or not let him go, or just keep him small to keep him contained in her world, not allow him to be his identity and all of that. So that's sort of what sparked in me when you're talking about your past examples.
Yes, it's very interesting. I'm a mother of an 11-year adult, because he's not a child anymore. And it's so interesting that we are talking about this, because I had an experience with him like 2 weeks ago. We went together to this wedding where I was the leading ceremony from that wedding. And he was just there, just backing up some stuff that he was not even supposed to be doing. But in that moment, someone asked him to do those tasks, and he was a yes to those tasks. And it was the first night that I saw him kissing a girl. That thing just, everything happened very naturally, but there was a moment that I saw him in the corner kissing a girl, and I was just feeling all these mixed sensations within my body. I was just like, oh my God, if that girl hurts my boy, I'm going to kick her ass. But there was a lot of mixed feelings, a lot of new mixed feelings that I've never felt before, that are supposed to be felt, to come to the surface, that I'd never felt before. And in that moment, I was just like, oh, here is me, myself, Dalida, as a mother. That is a role that I had during all these years since I am a mother. But I'm not that role. And my son is not that role either. He's an individual. So he is growing up. He's having his relationships. He's building his own path. And I know that I must allow him, I must allow myself to feel all those feelings, and also allow him to grow and have those experiences by himself, and not interfere to whatever's happening in his life. Because that is something that I didn't like in my past relationships, when I saw the mothers from my ex-partners doing that thing that I was about to do with my son. And this is the point where I feel and believe that the self-development is such a powerful tool in everybody's life. So, because I am aware of it, because I have been in self-development paradigm for the years that I've been. And I have learned so much about patterns and about behaviors and about unconscious and about archetypes that I could saw myself in that moment and my conditioning coming out, wanting to do a certain thing. And just being aware of it makes a lot of difference. It's like what I felt in that moment was like breaking this pattern of a lineage in the family. Like, no, let himself be who he wants to be. Let himself having his experiences, because he is going to have those ones, because they are part of life. So there is no point in trying to save him from feeling pain or being hurt in those relationships. That myself as a mother, it's something that it's not that hurts me, but there is a part of me that doesn't want that to happen. But I know it must happen in order for him to grow up, to evolve.
So beautiful to hear how you hold the paradox, you know, and the mixed emotions and feelings of, like, on one hand wanting to contain and hold on to, and on the other just allowing your heart to open and freeing him to go into his development and go become a man. And so I think it's just the case of all development in all these stages of our growth as humans, that's the hardest thing. When we get to these moments, it's not one or the other. There's this paradox that is very heart-wrenching to, on one hand, hold on, but at the same time, we know we need to let go. So I appreciated how beautifully you expressed that.
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt. Like the attachment, cutting out the attachment of like, he's my baby and I don't want to let go, but I have to let go of him anyway. It's just like, oh my God, this hurts so much, but I have to do it because it is part of his personality. He will grow his personality, his development. And it's not that either it's a good or a bad thing, but I know it's a healthier way for him, even for me as a mother, and even for him that is growing and going into a different stage of his own development. And the healthiest way to deal with this is just be honest and talk about stuff. And after 2 days of that happening, I spoke with him a little bit, and I said to him that when I was his age, I was very confused because my parents they had this non-verbal communication at home. So I remember that every time that something happened in our home, I was just like, what is happening here? Because my father does not communicate. My mom yells. Sometimes she goes silent. So what is happening? What is really happening here? Because I can sense that something is happening, that they are not speaking about it. They are not opening their hearts about what's happening. So now it's like I had this opportunity to do differently. Like speak with your son about what's happening. Speak that is natural, it's healthy to speak about what you are feeling, about your feelings, about mixed feelings, whatever they are, either they are denser or they are lighter. It's perfect. And I could feel that he was feeling a little bit, I don't know how to express how I'm feeling in this moment, because you are my mother, and I'm kind of feeling embarrassed because I don't want to talk about with you about this stuff. But I told him that even if he was feeling that way, it was okay to feel that way. He shouldn't be feeling like embarrassed in the face of his mother talking about this deep stuff with him. And I told him, this is the first time this is happening with me. You are my son. I've been living with you all my life, and every stage is a new stage for you and a new stage for me. So this is me as Dalida doing this role as your mother, the best that I can. So this is so uncomfortable for me too, son. This is very uncomfortable.
What a gift for you to be that vulnerable and transparent with him and to share yourself in that way. Wow, I just taking in your whole experience of that is, yeah, well, today I was pushing my daughter, my 8-year-old, on the swing and feeling a lot of these feelings of like, wow, she's getting so big. And I know it's right around the corner where, she's going to start changing. And I also appreciated what you shared about how it brings you back into your development at that stage of your life, and how the painful experience you had, possibly from your parents not being transparent and being nonverbal with you.
Yeah.
With myself, I'll say that I had that experience as well, and how painful that was. And then having that opportunity to shift that, and almost like as you shift that with your child, you shift that part of you that's still, a teenager, or, in that it's like that frozen piece can kind of start to move itself and integrate itself into where you are presently as an adult and an integrated man or a woman, and well, so, at this point we're talking about potential, and I think that's a big thing of what kind of like what you voiced and demonstrated in your mothering to your son, is that it's an opportunity for us to realize that we're always growing and we can't hold on, and we're never going to stay the same if we're true to our understanding of life. And I find that I see with my parents, for example, or how I was in my marriage for, many years of like, wanting to create a solidification or a certain way of having comfort, basically, and having consistency and having predictability. These are all the things we want to have as human beings to survive, right?
Yeah.
But what you're doing and demonstrating in your work is that to have the courage to transform and to live and thrive in your genius takes constant metamorphizing and constant letting go and opening to the new. And I think when we talk about men who are stuck in their potential and not their actual potency and power, and demonstrating that and living that in the world, this is a huge thing I've seen in myself for a long time. And I've seen other men that there's this stubbornness of either protection or not wanting to go there and be vulnerable, you stay stuck in your potential when you
Yeah.
don't transform.
That's what you reposted in my post. You were talking about your personal experience and what you see in men generally. So do you want to talk about that?
Yes. Yeah. So I reposted, I thought what you posted about potential of men really kind of triggered me where I am in my life, because I recently separated from my wife after 15 years.
Wow.
We were married for about seven of those, and then we were in a relationship before that. And we have a daughter who's 8, I mentioned before. So yeah, it was just really up for me that I think a large part of our marriage was this piece of her seeing potential of where I was and what I could do in the world, and her not wanting to wait any longer, and that coming up a lot, And again, I would say that in a compassionate way, I understand that's only one component of the whole dynamic. Because obviously it takes 2 to tango, and there's an energetic match that you have. So I don't want to deflect, so I'll keep going into my process, but it would be interesting to hear from you what the woman's counter piece is to that energetic match of attracting a man in their potential. Because your follow-up post, which was incredible, about your exacting standards and how you won't settle, I think that's the magic of being in your lover archetype and saying, these are the things I want as a woman, and I won't settle for less. So very high standards. So anyway, for the man, we met in school. So we were in graduate school. I was studying to be a counselor, an art therapist, transpersonal psychologist. And so her expectation was that we would both have our practice when we graduated, and things would go and start progressing just like we were. Like we would finish school, and then there's next steps, next hoops to jump through.
Yeah.
There's your license, there's your setting up your practice and all that. And when I got to that point of graduation, I was done. I just said I didn't want to jump through any more of these hoops. I kind of wanted to do it my own way. I got my art studio and didn't want to get my license, kind of dabbled in getting clients myself, and she went on to do it, just the trajectory of like getting your license, starting her practice, and gradually just building that. So I think, she saw the potential in me of going down that path, and mine was much different and much more difficult. I think the work piece of building my way of doing things had to play itself out in a very different way, So I wanted to take part-time jobs as I tried to do my vision my way outside of the larger professional community. And that ate into time that we could spend together intimately, having dates and spending time together. So there was that piece. I think, I want to speak on men's potential too, is that it's complicated, that there's different levels to this, there's what, so if we were on a date right now, if you could be looking at me and saying, okay, well, where is this guy, in his health? Where is this guy in his money? Where is this guy in his work? The consensus reality that we live in, the construct of, if we want to use astrology terms, Saturnian reality, right? What works in our community, in our larger, that's one level, right? But we can also talk about potential of an exacting standard of like, what is this man as a unique being, as an individuated? man, like that has his own ideas of what he wants to create outside of plug and play, paint by numbers, you know what I mean? Whatever.
Yeah.
And there's also a spiritual level. There's a spiritual level of like, do I want a man who's just completely surrendered to a larger existence, in the face of like aligning to God, whatever that means, the universe, and serving in that way selflessly in a bigger capacity? Do I care about his money making potential, his way, his social status, and all these things? So, my personal opinion and my belief, living as I do to this point in time, and examining people and the systems that I've studied, is that I think we're souls on a journey over a long expanse of time. I don't think this is our first lifetime. I think it takes a long, long time to learn the lessons we need to learn. And I do think while there's stages, they're not discrete. They overlap, and you can have a state experience where you open to oneness, and then you have to go back to the stage you're at and integrate that into your life. I do feel that we do journey through stages of existence, from a consensus, basically, where we align to the rules and the structures of what we learn in our society. And I do think we break free from that, sometimes completely in some lives, where we just live individually, and learn what that's about and how to rely on ourselves completely outside of the context of society. And then I do believe that once we fulfill all of our separating desires from the universe, we do surrender back into the universe, because we're done, because we lived everything we wanted to live, all the different desires we have. So if we were on a date and you're assessing me, what's this guy's potential? I think it depends on, as a woman, where your values are. And again, I think everything starts with values. Like, what are your standards? What are your values in your life? And how do you, because everything you're going to attract you're going to attract from that place, And if you're uncertain about that, it's going to create an uncertainty.
Yeah, exactly. In my case, it's like it was not the decision that I've made based on something that I had lived in the past, but because I had specific experiences with former partners, and there was a common thread, not in them, but within me. Within me, like I wasn't honest with myself. I wasn't being truthful with myself. I wasn't in integrity to what I really wanted in a relationship. And the last relationship that I was into, it lasted 6 years, but the first week, or the first 2 weeks that I met that man, I already knew that that man was a no for me. So I kept going because I was feeling the truth, but I was afraid of telling him the truth because I was afraid of hurting his feelings. And I was afraid of his reaction, that he would become violent towards me. But that was a story in my head. So I was creating that. And I absolutely take ownership in whatever I have lived in that relationship. It's like, I don't blame him for anything. I don't blame him for staying there for 6 years because that was my choice. Even if I wasn't aware of it, because I wasn't, otherwise I wouldn't be there. But right now, but after going through all those stages, like you were saying, I got to this point, like, that I know what I want right now. And I'm not willing to settle for anything less than that. And that's what I wrote in that post, like, that narrows what's there. because it makes me, in a way, becoming that person too. Someone who holds that standard first. That holds the no, that holds my yes, that is in integrity in the moments. In the moments. Not with the past, not what it's coming, not with a projection from the future, but in the moment. And I know that what I want right now.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense, right? When you think about if the man is uncertain and he's not firmly established in his power and his presence and his ability to show up in his life and make things happen, the woman isn't certain about her values and standards, that's a great match made in hell. But it's that'll play itself out. And I see that with almost all. And then, like you said, conversely, like if you're a woman that knows her standards and values and are standing firm to that and showing that through her adornment and her words and the way she's showing up in her energy, that's magic. I mean, you're going to attract that man that's available to provide. The masculine is all about provision. It loves to provide. And if it sees that, well, it loves to provide when it's in its power.
That's very nuanced.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So in my life, I this was not on my radar. Like I was. So let's take an example. Like when I met my wife, I loved the idea of being like a new age man, in touch with my feelings and emotions. And here's the thing that I love that you brought up right away in our conversation is that when I was a teenager, my father and I had a lot of strife, like a lot of headbutts and a lot of conflict. He did not know how to express his emotions. And as a man, show how he was feeling and what he needed and how to own his power, basically. How to own his power in a way that was responsible. And so while he was checked out, my mom really was hurting, and I felt like, okay, well, I can really understand and show up for her in this way. And I felt validated in that, and I attached to that, and I related to that, and I felt like she really helped me, get through that time that was very painful. So I sort of didn't have that male rite of passage. I didn't have other men that I felt safe with, or I kind of disowned that inside of myself.
Yeah.
And I went into my art, and I went into my cave, my room, and I got into music and very, shadowy, feminine. I wanted to embrace that part of me, because I felt like that was what sustained me basically through that time period. And then so when I met my wife, at that point, it was a repeat. Basically, she had a hole in her development from her father, who was a very strong man, and that was all about provision and never was there for her in terms of emotional nurturing or support. So that hook was perfect. Like I showed up in that energy and provided that for her. And then while she was healing that for herself through me showing up, my part of it, I didn't have to own any of my masculine wounding. I didn't have to show up and work on that. And so what progressively happened throughout our marriage as we grew and did more self-development was we both realized like that was okay at the beginning, but like actually I wanted to be that strong man that had provision but I needed to heal and started to look at it, and it didn't mean that it had to be like my father played it out. I could own it in a way that was responsible, and men could do both. Like we can be strong providers and powerful in the world and our social status, and also be very kind and loving and emotionally intelligent. Just like
Absolutely.
women went through their trajectory earlier than men in the 60s and 70s, and went into the world and became their own people and powerfully created their own businesses and stood for their status and all that. Men could also embrace that part of them. So I think it's just taking longer.
I love exactly. I love that part of a man. I love his willingness to be in his masculine provision and also at the same time be kind.
It's like shape-shifting, it's like knowing that this guy, if push comes to shove, like if it goes down, he has me. He has he can take care of business. But he can shapeshift with his child or with his family into a loving, present, emotionally intelligent being,
And not fall in that kindness, in that
Yes.
excessive, no, not excessive, but in the feminine energy. That's what I felt in the relationships that I had, that they would fall in that role of being so kind, the nice guy, being the person that is very like a man that everyone likes to be around, but that came with an untruth, like an energy that it's not him. That's not him. He's not being himself. He's just showing that part because it's easier to show up like that.
Absolutely. And that just nails the head, right on the head of like just the whole conversation we're having about potential of like, that was me, showing up that way, but I didn't know, you know what I mean? It was so subconscious,
Yeah, me too. So, I was a nice girl as well.
Yeah.
Now I'm a bitch. No, I'm not. Actually, it's so interesting because when there are people that sometimes I know, and there's something that they say that all the same. They say the same all the time. That is, my God, every time I look at you, you seem so powerful, with such a firm. You seem you seem like you have such skills and strengths, and then when we start talking with you, you are so kind, and you are so funny and so easygoing. And I say, yeah, I am. I am both, but the way people perceive me, they perceive me like this powerhouse, which I am, but I am so much more than that.
Absolutely. And again, there's so many ways we can go with the conversation, but like that particular piece that I find online, with the masculine feminine thing of like, well, you realize it's like an inner game first, right? Like people talk about it and it's like, you have that inside yourself first. You know what I mean? Like you have that strong boundaries and that provision of your masculine. And then I experience you extremely open-hearted and gentle and relaxed and flowing in your feminine expression. So, I mean, but that's the thing, it's an inner game first. It's like they talk about, attracting this and that outside of you. It's like, you got to start.
That becomes very manufactured in my point of view. That has become like, oh my God, so this is feminine. This is like a list of feminine, like a bullet points of feminine traits and a masculine traits. So let's see if we match all this. It's still a program. They keep creating it as a program when the simpler way is just like being yourself in every moment. Like forget about the masculine and the feminine, just be yourself.
Absolutely. And that's the individuation piece of like, it's not going to look anything like anybody else. Like you're a completely unique being with complex, dynamics that you have inside yourself that is like nobody else, so. But again, that's when it becomes like not a surprise, right? When you can integrate in a healthy way, consciously, take from the subconscious all the shadow and allow it to become conscious in your awareness, then when you attract a partner, it's not a surprise because you did the work inside yourself first. That's everything. You're at that point, you're not trying to get anything fulfilled outside of you. It's just all of an echo and reflection of, I did the work. So I get all these reflections and the things in my life.
Yeah.
But so much is this, I don't know, just this context of feeling like, I'll do this program or do this thing and you'll attract this kind of man or woman or whatever. It's like you do the work inside yourself first. I mean, that's the other piece too that we could talk about is like the spiritual bypassing thing is huge, like, and I did it for so long. It's like, first of all, I feel like you could see in a man when he's in his head, he's not in his body,
Yeah.
That's a red flag for, okay, this guy's in his potential. He's not living it out. Because when he's in touch with his body, he's able to move matter, make things matter. This is three-dimensional reality where we need to like work with time and space. And, for so many years, I had all these great ideas, grandiose, plans and schemes. And I got, oh my God, he's got such a amazing vision and all these, but until I took a step back and said, okay, I gotta just get healthy in my body and, take it from there, build it from every day practicing to maintain a healthy consistency and a routine and all of those things that are, body-based. Yeah, it makes a world of difference. I mean, it's basically, you and I know the archetype of the saboteur, which is all the mind thing where you could just stay up in your head forever. And it's like, to really create magic is like, you got to put all those structures of time and space and all those things, your values, like we're talking about in this, starts there with your values. Then you call into, time and space, what you want to create. And it's
where you are fully into the experience with your body, with your mind, with your soul.
Yes.
And you are partially aware of what's happening, but the moment, that's what I have been doing like the last 2 months, 3 months, because I have realized that I was actually not doing the work. I was convinced that I was doing the work. And that was okay, because in the moment that I've realized that, I didn't beat myself up like in the past. I used to, oh my God, I was not doing the work. Now I have to do this and do that. And I was like, no, you're not going that way. You just realized something, and that is fucking huge. So what's next? How do you want to, where do you want to go? How do you want, what's true for you? So the honesty element, it's huge. Like, be honest with yourself, Dalida. And that is a daily thing. It's a daily thing.
Yeah. And if you're a woman who understands that, right? And I'm a man, and if I'm a man stuck in my potential, you can see that very clearly. But the unfortunate thing is for that man, or if it's me, is like, I can't see that. Because again, it's the subconscious kind of thing where the lie I'm telling myself is, I don't know what I don't know. You know what I mean? I'm convinced. I'm convinced it's true. So the last couple of years for me, I went through a similar trajectory of like, oh, like I couldn't lie to myself anymore, because what happened was I saw people making a shit ton of money as a coach and as a parent. And all the excuses I would tell myself from the sidelines of why I couldn't do it. I finally saw women doing it. And I had a change of heart, like where we know that phrase. And the change of heart is the lover. It's what we've been talking about this whole conversation, where you awaken, I will stand by these values no matter what. Like this, I will do whatever it takes, and I'm willing and able, because, before, what happened was I was just like, all these coaches and all this stuff, they're all in shadow. I can see it. I could see how they're all, messing up, and I'd be throwing stones in glass house,
Yeah.
like that phase where it's like, you're such a hypocrite, call it the kettle black or whatever, it's like, because it's like, I was like, this is the spiritual bypassing piece. I was like, oh, I'm so aware, I can see all these things, and there was no motivation for me, because you see what I'm saying, I was more motivated by just hanging out in my shadow, by saying I don't need to do anything. What is out there that I feel is worth it? And it was worth it when I saw women being real, making a lot of money, and doing their spiritual practice, bringing incredible knowledge into the world, incredible knowledge, and living their lives, raising their kids. I was like, fuck, I have to have a change of heart. And my taste awakened. I was like, you know what? See, this is another piece. I had a teacher that taught about this, that over lifetimes, what happens is you can skip steps. You can go, you want to go to get your PhD, and you should be going,
So someone taught you
grade.
that?
Yeah. He was like, you could see it in the chart too, through Pluto and certain aspects of the nodes where, lifetimes that you abandon your family, you in pursuit of whatever, your individuation, and pursuit of spiritual awakening, just basically bypassing the natural progression of your lifetimes that you have to, go through, or you should be committed to. I mean, you have to learn how to be accountable, and again. So I feel like I have a lot of that. I did a lot of expansion and spiritual awakening, and I just caused a lot of pain and just bypassed a lot of things. And it's like, in this lifetime, going through the experience of being married again and having a child, it was a lot of just recapturing a lot of the things that I needed to be accountable for, And again, a man in his potential doesn't want to own that, doesn't want to take responsibility. And that's a red flag too, And again, what does it take for that man to wake up and just realize what he's doing? I think it is a change of heart, however that happens for that man,
Yes, and it's something that cannot be forced.
No.
That's the element. That's what I was trying to do with myself. I was forcing myself into the process. And things become more easier when I'm not trying to force them, when I'm just allowing things to build itself moment by moment.
This is one thing I wanted to mention today, and you just triggered it for me, is that, see, in the past, what I was looking for is for all of these things to save me, to give me credibility, to validate my existence, to be special, to be, some transcendental being or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah, me too.
And so what happened was, I realized, like, I have a lot of special things that I can offer and bring into the world, but if I'm stuck in that place where those scripts are running from shadow, then I'm going to make a mess of it, and I'm never going to be able to bring it into matter if I don't let go of those things and humble my ego. It's like the most ironic thing, right? A lot of the people that are in the spiritual communities and they're spiritually bypassing, they seem like they're like all about egolessness, but it's the most dense ego-filled behavior, and for me to come to terms with that in myself and just let go of that and just say, okay, I'm just going to start from this humble place of like building from my body, taking responsibility for myself, and what I can provide as a man through my presence and owning my power, taking responsibility, just starting there. And so similar to the experience you've been going through, just like really seeing what it takes to really put your genius and your individuated brilliance into the world in a clean way and not an ego-filled way,
Yeah, that can be very twisted.
Yeah.
And yeah, because yeah, say.
Oh, I was just gonna say, there's nowhere to go, it's like the truth of existence is we're empty. It's not like you're rushing to become some special, being that's greater than anything else, or, it's just, you have to let go of that whole trajectory of like, there's anywhere to get to or go to. It's just, we're emptiness, and we create out of nothing, something from nothing. I mean, it's a paradox that, we just learn to understand by living it.
By
Not-
living it, yeah,
Yeah,
by living it.
by living it.
And that there was a lot of things that I was saying on my posts the last 3 years. Yeah, last three, that weren't, I wasn't living them, and that was when I really faced myself and realized, well, it's time to start living the things that you are preaching, and not just preaching them online, but be someone who is embodying that truth. But not because you want to show to someone else that you are doing that, because it's for you. You want them for yourself. Because it was no longer working for me anymore. What are you doing? Saying something that you are not living yet? Come on.
That's beautiful. And that's exactly it. It's not any of the things I was mentioning, but it's what you're doing for yourself, how you're making yourself feel fulfilled and creative, purposeful, and wanting to share that out of a egoless place, just that because it's lighting you up and making you feel, just out of that place. So that's beautiful,
Yes. But there is all these elements, or we are all caught up in the programming on social media. So we go to social media, we start scrolling, we start reading all these posts, and all of a sudden we are thinking about something that's never crossed our minds till that point. And we start creating our reality from what we are reading. So that becomes like this byproduct from what we are reading. So one of the things that I've been doing is like this step away from the social media and just go inside yourself, recenter, and create from that space, which is challenging, because stopping the addiction of scrolling on social media every day, it's challenging. Because there's a part of me that wants to know what everyone is talking about, what's new around out there, but also because there is a part of me that still is not willing to come fully online and start about what I want to talk about, and talk about what is safe, that someone has talked already before. So I know that is the point that I am right now. And yeah.
I mean, I can notice it lately, like the posts you're making, your group, and just they're so powerful, and it's really you coming through, and it's so unique and individuated. So I really just,
what happened when I started, because I've started doing exactly what I said earlier. So okay, I'm just going to create for my being. I'm going to step away from what's outside, and then I just start creating. Like, I want to create this, and then I want to create this, and then I became noticed. So someone sent me a message, oh my God, you are building such a massive presence online. And another person told me, oh, you are being so present you are building this presence. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm being noticed. And what now? Because I wasn't doing that to get all that attention. So that's the paradox. And suddenly I was getting all the attention, and I was kind of retrieving myself from creating. And I was like, what am I doing? Because in that moment, I've realized, like, okay, so now I'm being noticed. So probably I should keep creating the same content I've been creating, because that is the content that people want me to create. And I was like, no, stop it. But that requires like this awareness in the moment to catch what is happening, because it is highly nuanced, and all these bits that are so easily to fall into and start creating from your shadow.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big test, I think, that presented itself to you. And I think it's amazing that you were able to just catch that and consciously and just say, you know what, like, I don't have to do any of this this way, and I could post if I'm feeling the taste to do so or not. And yeah, because when you start to change your magnetism and you're attracting so much more, I can imagine it's tempting to like
and it's easier to fall back into the safety, which is not saying anything and just stay where you are, because you are drawing too much attention to yourself. Oh, that's such a safety place to be in. And I was just like,
yeah. Well, you just modeling this for me is like, you have that strong magnetic post that you made, and then I reposted it and commented on it, so I could see for myself, like, it inspires me to be like, when I can put my authentic voice into the world, is like you start attracting naturally what is an energetic match for that, and just seeing that in action through you is inspiring to me, just seeing it, that's how it works, and it's just staying with that, though, not going anywhere else, where this means anything, this is giving me credibility or self-worth or saving me or anything like that, it's just like, okay.
Yeah, exactly. And I know it was genuine. It was coming from a genuine place within, like, yeah, I'm just doing this because I want to do this. I want to create this. I want to bring forth all this expression that wants to come out. But the moment that I've realized that I was drawing all this attention, it was interesting to cut myself trying to go back to the safety place. And this is something that will happen. The more you are, the more you create from yourself, the more attention you will draw, because people sense when you are being in integrity with yourself. They sense the energy. They sense, oh, this person. It's not about what I'm doing or about what I'm saying. It's about who I am being, actually.
That's beautiful. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if there's anything that we could say that is like a motivator other than, you sharing yourself authentically, is, your mission in the world to, like, really your natural expression helps, like, other mothers be brave and have the conversation with their sons that you did. Other women hold their exacting standards and beautifully express that in the world, in their words and the way that they present themselves. Like, I mean, that's a byproduct. That's an effect of a cause of you just aligning to yourself,
Yeah.
Even that you have to let go of, Yeah.
And we want to, or speaking about myself, it's like I want to prove that I'm actually doing something, which, of course, my posts, not everybody reads my posts, but there is someone reading my posts. There is someone every day that reads what I'm expressing, what I'm posting on social media. But it's like there's a part of me that needs proof that what I'm doing, what I'm creating, it's correct. It's what I'm supposed to be creating, which it does not work that way, because I'm here to create something new. Even this last 3 days, I was in Lisbon with a friend, and he had some challenge with his voice. He said he was a little bit shy, and he couldn't do like live streams because he thought that his voice was too thin, not very masculine. And I just had a talk with him, and suddenly he was just like, with his eyes wide open, he said, "Oh my God, Dalida, you cannot imagine. You just helped me to break through this pattern that I've been living through all my life, the last 40 years of my life, about my voice."
Amazing.
And in my perception, it's like I didn't do nothing. I was just talking with you,
Yeah.
being myself, and the transformation happened without me doing anything like on purpose, you know? And those are the things that we are never aware of, the transformation we are helping the people that are watching us, that are following us. We are not aware about the transformation. And sometimes someone can read a post, can read a sentence, and their life changes dramatically because you said something.
Yeah, that's absolutely. You don't know. Yeah, you're just transmitting naturally your own. And this is the thing I wanted to say about potential, a man's potential. I think that's the deepest layer, is that a woman who can convey that to the man, of like, that's what you're missing out on by not living your potential. Those transformations that you could make in your energy, and the man being able to see in the woman her heart break from a natural place of witnessing the man in his potential, but not bringing that into the world. Like, that's a gift to the man who's stuck in his potential. Just seeing a woman, like, oh, it breaks my heart, showing her full feminine expression, how, you know, this could bring so much to the world, but yet, you know, you're stuck in your potential.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, you know, like you said, you can't force the transformation or bring it about, but I think that's the best you could do for a man stuck in his potential, is share impact.
Yeah.
Fully as a woman in her body. This is, if it's genuine, like, breaking my heart that I can see that what you could better the world with through bringing your gift into it. Yeah. Not saying any of that, you see what I'm saying, but just in
No, but that's true.
no
That's
words,
true.
you know.
The more I am in my body, the more I am embodying who I really am and dissolving illusions, whatever. The more I sense that there are specific kind of men that are approaching a different energy. It's interesting to witness that. Very, very much different from the past, from the kind of energy and energetic male, masculine, I don't know how to call it, but very, very different. Very different.
Well, Well, it's great for you because it's an adventure for you to see what your energetic match is bringing. You know, you get to experience that by showing up more as yourself. You're attracting your energetic match.
Because because I'm not looking for anyone. I'm not looking for a man.
Yeah.
I feel so good with myself currently. Like, yeah. It's not that I don't need a man. I don't need actually a man, but I do want to have that deep love dynamic with a man, of course. Yeah, that's the truth. That's what I want. I want a man to have or to create a life together. I don't know how to translate this, but it's like I don't need to live with him like in the same place, but to have a man that is really committed to the dynamic as much as I am, as much as I'm willing to. That is something that for me, it's like, yeah, it's fundamental.
Yeah, and then what you were saying in your post about your exacting standards, I think it's just a natural outcome of you standing in that and animating that in your life, living it. You will just attract that, you know, naturally. And just like you were saying with what was happening after your posts and stuff, the energy that you are attracting, it's going to be a practice just for you to let go and just see what is, see how that looks without conditions, you know, or ideas.
Yeah, this is a never-ending work.
Yeah,
it's a never-ending work. Every day there is something new, something different to dive in, some new layer that is coming through. It's like
yeah, for sure. Well, I loved our conversation. It was great.
Me too.
I think there's a lot of other things that we could unpack together, and this was a great conversation. Hopefully it'll help some other man. There's hope for you. There's hope, because if I could have a change of heart after flipping my polarity and, you know, disowning and living my potential and lying to myself, and there's hope, you know. It's just persistence and a lot of, you know, self-honesty and going deep with yourself, let it go, and willingness to grow and change, like we were talking about with all these different developmental experiences as a human.
This is a lovely way to end this conversation. I loved it so much.
Awesome. Great to talk to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jeff. And yeah, I'll talk to you soon.
I'd like that.
Oh yeah, all the best. Thank you.
Okay, ciao.
Thank you. Bye-bye.